Hello, viewers. I'm your host, Ameya Sathaye, and welcome to this very special broadcast. As you know, the US presidential elections have just taken place, and Donald Trump has won the US elections, getting a landslide victory in swing states. His rival, Kamala Harris, secured around 224 electoral college, while Trump has won by more than 270 electoral votes, and they are still being counted. And we are expecting the mark to go around 300 or maybe crossing that majority mark. He will be the second Republican to get a second term in office in 20 years. The US presidential elections is closely watched around the world as the US policies have for long had a big impact on other countries. The 2024 US presidential elections has been extraordinary in terms of political discourse reaching new lows. During the election campaign that lasted several months, America and the rest of the planet witnessed an ugly and divisive contest that saw personal attacks, derogatory language, racist slurs, inflammatory rhetorics, and even assassination attempts. But the best part has been the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated his friend Donald Trump, and he has conveyed, "Let's work together for betterment of people and global peace." To understand various dimensions and its impact on global politics, we have been joined by a renowned expert from USA, Florida. I welcome Dr. Joseph M Chalil, MD, MBA, FACHE, and a best-selling author and award-winning global healthcare executive, leads multiple US healthcare companies and a publisher of Universal News Network. He is also a fellow at American College of Healthcare Executives. He is an LLM candidate at the University of Edinburgh and Complex Healthcare Systems Chair and faculty at the Nova Southeastern University College of Business. And he also holds the position of chairman of Indo-American Press Club. So welcome, Dr. Chair, to this very special broadcast.
Thank you, Ameya. Thank you for having me. And good morning to everyone from Palm Beach, Florida, hometown of Donald Trump.
Okay.
President.
So let's start with my first question. If for the benefit of our viewers, could you just take us through briefly of how these elections, US elections, they are taking place and how they are conducted?
So good morning once again. And just for our viewers from India's information, the elections in India is different than the elections in the USA.
Yes.
We have in America, we have a presidential system of governance, while India has a parliamentary system, ruled by a prime minister who is head of the parliament. That is not the case here. Here the president is elected directly by each American citizen, while in India, the prime minister is not voted by every citizen. Prime minister is an MP, but who's a leader of a ruling party who wants a majority control over the parliament in India. That is not the case here. Here, the presidents have to go and seek their votes direct from the American people, and whoever is popular will become the president of the US. And that also gives more power to the president as opposed to the prime minister of India. And we can also see that the president's party, which is in this case the Republican Party, may or may not get the majority in the upper house or the lower house. The upper house here called the Senate, and the lower house in India, which is similar to our Lok Sabha, is called the Congress in America. The Congress controls the financial bills, while the Senate confirms all those bills. And in addition to that, they also have to confirm every appointment the president makes to his cabinet. So every minister who is appointed by the President Trump will need to be confirmed and approved by the Senate. So the good thing for President Trump this time is that he will not really have the presidency and the vice presidency, but he will have control over the Senate and most likely the Congress. Again, the election results are still not 100% out yet. So the President Trump has now, official count says he has surpassed over 270 mark in the Electoral College. That's also different compared to what India have, because we have an electoral college system, which is not a direct um, popular vote of every American voting. That is put in place for the purpose that simple states like high population states like in the case of America or California or New York, which has a lot of people, they shouldn't be single-handedly controlling who would be the president of the US should be. So the Constitution writers actually put in place a system wherein even the smallest state in the union has a say in who becomes the president. So he has to win. So everyone is awarded the electoral college numbers. So there are, around, 538 or so electoral colleges, which is very similar to the number of Congress seats in the US. And they have to win the majority of those. So when we say President Trump just won 277 and Kamala Harris only won 226, people will say, what happened to the rest? So it's yet to come. So they haven't called all the states yet. I would say when the final tally is out, President Trump's numbers could be over 310, most
And
likely, or
what about the
312.
Senate position then?
The
You said
Senate is
a
so
majority of.
no matter how much the population in a state, each state gets 2 Senate seats. So
Okay.
there are 50 states in America.
Mhm.
So the maximum number of senators in the Congress in the Senate is 100. So anyone gets at least 50 or 51 seats or more will become the majority control of senators.
So what
But
would be
some
the final
some
tally?
the right now it says 50, 52, but there are still more seats to be called for.
Okay.
But the vice president will be the chairman of the Senate. So he will become, one additional tie-breaking vote. He get to vote as well. But some of the major legislations will require a super majority in the sense they will require a 60 vote in the Senate. So we don't know if Trump will get a 60 vote in the Senate or not. But in this case, it's not like in India where parties give whip to certain MPs and say you have to vote as per this whip. You cannot vote against the party line. If not, you get disqualified. That is not the case here. MPs or the senators and the congressmen are free to vote their will. They don't have to follow a whip. They cannot be disqualified because they are representing the people. So they represent and they vote what the people want as opposed to what the party heads want. So it makes it much more interesting where you can actually lobby or we can, influence opposing party senator or a congressman to vote for a bill, even though, he's in the other party. So it's easy to get the 60 or supermajority if you want, if the bill is popular. So it is a lot more interesting, the American way of electorate compared to the Indian way, which is a bit more structured and the ruling party controls everything. Not the case here. But the other side is the prime minister don't have much power. Prime minister cannot take the India into a war all of a sudden. A president can. American president has enormous power. He has the power to pardon anybody. He can go into war. He can make decisions. He can write executive orders without the Senate, can later confirm those things. But there is a excess amount of power the president will have, which I believe the President Trump will use this time for the benefit of Americans.
Thank you, Dr. Chair. You very nicely summarized for our viewers, how the US presidential elections or the election system, how it works, Uh, my next question is, Donald Trump has been elected for the second time. How do you see the global impact on, global politics, how it's going to shape up now? Because when Trump lost it, the world went through a very bad phase of COVID. It had its impact on the global economy. How do you see President Trump coming in the second term, and how it's going to affect the global politics or the global affairs?
Definitely, because as you know, when President Trump came in first time, he was completely inexperienced in politics. He wasn't even a senator, nor even a city councilman before he, ran for president. He never stood any elections before in his life. This was the first time last time. So, each president gets to appoint over, let's say, 10,000 appointments, including, ministers. We call them secretaries here. and department heads and post and secondary department heads and everything else. So Trump, instead of, since he didn't have the 10,000 people, he took everyone's recommendation and then appointed whoever, everyone recommended. He didn't know any of those people, from the foreign ministers to defense ministers to generals to everybody else, to CIA heads. And some of them ended up being a mistake, because they didn't have, even though they had their own agenda, they didn't have Trump's agenda in their mind. Trump went to the people with the specific agenda to the people, but his people, his leadership team, did not believe in that. But he didn't appoint, the people. He didn't have the people who believed in him. This time, the Trump 2.0 will be completely different than the Trump 1.0. So this time, he has the people ready. He has experienced advisors who came in from multiple parties. That's even this is a pretty revolutionizing elections here. They're one of the most, I would say, one of the highest turnout I have ever seen in presidential election in America. In India, we'll see like 70% election turnout. It's a great, it's bad. Some states have 6, 70, 78, 80% turnout. In America, usually we get, 30%, 28%. So that was the case here, because election were never a holiday. Elections were, people going and vote, before work or after work. So most people don't vote. But they do have absentee ballots. They can mail in the ballot. There was some fraud happened because of it. Hopefully Trump will fix it now coming in.
Mhm.
Plus, election is not just a one-day affair. Elections, election polls are open for weeks before the election day. People can go in and do early voting. So those are another differences which happen here. So that won't happen, now with the new president coming in. When coming back to the world stage, Trump attracted this time especially after the assassination attempts, because there are multiple wars happening right now. In the sense, the Israeli, American, the Gaza conflict, with Iran, with Syria, with the Lebanon. It's growing up, to be a much larger mess than what anybody expected. The Ukrainian war, which is again a proxy war by America against Russia, is also happening. But we got to look into who is benefiting from it. So is a president of America benefiting from it somehow, or is somebody else benefiting from it? Unfortunately, in America, the defense equipments like the planes, or the bullets, or the missiles, or the guns are made by private military companies. We call it, military industrial complex, which are traded in the American stock market,
Yes.
like General Dynamics, like Raytheon. These are companies which make everything, from used to make, NASA rockets, to F-15s to F-35 fighter jets. So these companies have a vested interest in unrest going around the world, and they were lobbying congressmen and presidents to keep that going on. But Trump is not their puppet, because Trump doesn't need their money. He is wealthy himself. He's actually the first American president who went in and became more poorer than he went in. So he lost more money being American president than anybody else, because everybody else, whether it is the Bushes or the Obamas or even Biden, all became multimillionaires after their presidency. How they did it, I don't know, right? Their salary is not that high. So how did an American president, one example they bring up is a new supporter of Kamala Harris was Liz Cheney. Again, she was a daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, who was the main reason why America went into Iraq War, which was a disaster. America lost over 8 to 10 trillion dollars in that war with no visible benefit. Nobody's better off after Iraq War, but no one's getting fired. No one questioned why was it there. Is India better off after Iraq War? No. Did America get any oil out of it? No. Is the Chaldean community in Iraq better? So was Saddam Hussein that bad that we had to go in and destroy the whole country and put it in the hands of ISIS or Al Qaeda? No. Same thing we did in Afghanistan. What was the purpose? If we had to go in and kill Osama bin Laden, which is understandable, but destroying the whole country and then leaving it back to Taliban after, and then building a $1 billion or $2 billion Bagram airspace and giving it back to China now. So these are blunders made by former American presidents, whether both parties, Republican and Democrat, and Trump wanted to fix it. So the warmongers in the Republican Party moved away from Trump. They did not endorse, so they went and supported Kamala Harris.
Okay.
So when I talked about Liz Cheney, she went into Congress as a congresswoman with a $200,000 salary. Her assets were $7 million. She came out. Her current assets are $47 million. How did she make that $40 million in 5 years or 8 years? There is no legal way I can say that, unless you are buying stock and trading things, which we should be knowing inside information, or you're serving on the board of these military defense complex companies leading to these things. So the Trump presidency was feared by these people who wanted to have unrest worldwide. So Trump has promised that he will bring peace. So since you asked about the Russian Ukrainian
Conflict.
how it's gonna work,
Hmm.
so again, Trump has clarified it multiple times that there is no way Ukraine can beat Russia. You just have to accept the fact that Russia is a nuclear powered country. If a small country like Ukraine without any large military, cannot sustain. You can do a proxy war by giving American weapons for a while, but how long can you survive? Who is suffering for it? Of course, people are making money in between, but that's not the case. So I'm pretty sure Trump will somehow create a ceasefire deal and create some sort of a line of actual control, a line of control right now. It may not be the country where it was before. Will be negotiated with Russia on a way we can there's a demarcation, and there might be some sort of a payment for rebuilding the damages for what happened in Ukraine. So maybe they can remove the sanctions in return for maybe the oil could be used to rebuild the sale of Russian oil could be used towards rebuilding Ukraine. And the same thing could be done in Gaza or in West Bank. Maybe they could rebuild West Bank and Gaza from money given by Israel and things like that, and bring in some peaceful transition, to these places. Or maybe other countries can chip in. That doesn't have to be just so. Trump has promised that even before he takes office next year, he will push on bringing a ceasefire in Russia and Ukraine. In fact, Hezbollah already wants to a ceasefire in Israeli war. They've been dragging out, waiting for the election results, hoping and a peaceful world, which will be good for the world. Number two, it'll be good for the shipping containers because they've been attacking the ships in the sea, which is bad for us. And the second thing is, or the third thing is, Trump has been hawkish against China because he didn't believe he truly believed that COVID was manufactured in a Chinese lab, and he promised that he will open up those investigations into the source of COVID, the source of Chinese spying on our phones, including they've been hacking on President Trump's phone recently and JD Vance's phone. So if I were China, I would be afraid. And he's also promising multiple changes in tax strategies in the US. He's offering to make companies who manufacture products in America to have a much lower income tax. So if I'm Apple and in my 80% of my products are made in China, I'll be thinking about bringing back those manufacturing back to US because then your income tax, corporate income tax will go down significantly. If I am a car manufacturer and currently making it in Canada or Mexico and shipping it across the border, I will be reconsidering those and then activating American plants. So these are the things Trump wants to stimulate Indian American economy with. He will, that will bring in jobs. Manufacturing will bring in jobs and a stable partnership. And he wanted to end this, EV mandate, which was forcing people to shut down gas production, cars, and everything else. He doesn't believe in it. He wants to explore American oil, American natural gas. America has more oil than Saudi Arabia. If we started exploring all of it and we're opening it up to the public and to export it, the world oil market will collapse. There'll be no profit in it. We can get oil for $30 a barrel, and America will be the largest shipper of these products. So the OPEC cartel will be affected. It'll be good for India because we will be able to we may not need to buy, Venezuelan or Iranian oil. We'll be able to happily buy American oil at $30 a barrel, shipped directly to India. until we are ready to, move on to natural resources and solar system and everything else. So I'm expecting a peaceful world, a better world, economically developed world, and of course there'll be problems. We are expecting, I wouldn't be surprised if there is, terrorist attacks on US, because we don't even know who came through the Mexican border now. So we have no way of knowing what they brought with them. So they wouldn't have attacked before the elections because that would have helped Trump. So now Trump is elected. I would be afraid that there could be attacks in the U.S. Homeland. But that's why we need to get back together first and protect our borders, deport everybody who is not legal, and take the securities safe.
That's a good perspective of, how the second term of Trump is going to be, and its impact on world politics. And even if you talk about from the common man's perspective, whether a person in Ukraine or in Russia or in Gaza, I think in the coming days they can expect peaceful resolution of all the conflicts. That is very important. You talked about India. Uh, my next question will be, Donald Trump and Narendra Modi, they enjoy a very good chemistry. They're good friends. They always say that, they helped each other when the elections were going on. They supported each other. Uh, my next question is, how important it is for India for the second term of Donald Trump. What do we expect, and what synergies do you see? How it's going to help India?
I would expect America to be a fair partner of India, not backstabbing India, because many of the people who are coming into administration, whether it is Vivek Ramaswamy, who actually was one of the main reasons why this Trump had a landslide victory, because 2 years ago he is the first guy who wanted the then Republican Party chairman to resign, and bring in Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and the Democrats to this fray. And these are people who are friends of India. These are practicing Hindu Americans. Tulsi Gabbard is another person who is a former Democrat. Again, another practicing Hindu. These are not anti-India people. Even J.D. Vance, best friend of Vivek Ramaswamy and close family friend of his wife, Usha Vance. She, and her family. So this will be a good day for India. But again, don't expect America to do everything for India. There will be strong negotiations coming forward. Like, for example, I would expect Trump will request that, hey, we take away the tariffs put on Harley Davidson bikes being exported from Milwaukee, because that's going to promote American jobs here. Why can't Americans have or Indians have cheaper Harley Davidson? Of course, they'll be giving a competition to the Hero Hondas and Enfield, things like that, or maybe a Tesla car. Maybe need an entry into India. So in return, there'll be other things which are benefiting, America in India as well. So it's not just one-way traffic; it's a give and take. But we won't be backstabbing India and putting, terrorists in Bangladesh and claiming it is for democracy, versus what currently they've been doing. So I'm hoping a stable but trustworthy partnership between India and America.
Dr. Chell, before we, end this program, if you could just sum up, uh, what were the major reasons of, Trump coming in the second term? What were the mistakes which were done by the previous administration? And just give us a perspective of, what do we expect?
So you're saying the mistakes from the first administration?
Yes.
Again, as I said, the first administration mistake was they didn't have the experience, they didn't have the backing, they didn't have the majority in the Senate or the Congress to do what he wanted.
No, I'm
And that
talking
is,
about the Biden administration. What mistakes did, and why public didn't vote for them, and Donald Trump coming with thumping majority.
major mistakes was they were focusing too much. They went too far to the left. They were
Oh,
promoting, transgender agendas, LGBTQ, lesbian, gay agendas. They were open border, which hurt the spending after COVID, caused all this massive inflation, led to economic downturn. And then the president who was not capable of running a country was propped up. So if he's not capable of leading it, then the deep state takes over and they want to run it. And the Kamala Harris actually came in without a mandate.
and if we talk about from the common man's perspective, uh, was inflation and how the global affairs were handled. Uh, could that have been a major reason for this kind of a mandate which Trump got?
The Trump mandate wasn't an accident. It was pre-planned. It was again since past 2 years or more. It's been planned to make this happen. The coalition was being built. This was an unusual coalition in the sense a coalition of just the regular Americans, working class Americans, the Black Americans, the Arab Americans, the Indian Americans, and the Jewish Americans. Everybody came together to support Donald Trump. And because Donald Trump spoke about pocketbook issues about them, he told them that, hey, if you are a waiter or a server in a restaurant and you get your money as tips, we will not be taxing your tips anymore. That's a big deal for all these workers in Nevada, or in the casinos, all because all the people who America they work in restaurants, they don't earn much salary. Their salary is very negligible, but the most of their income is in tips. People usually give 20% tip on anything what we buy in restaurants here. It's unlike in America. So most servers don't get paid a salary. They live by the tip. So now Trump is coming and telling, we're not going to charge you a tax for the tip. It's a big deal for them, you know. And then we have people who are over 65-year-old, who get a monthly social security payment, anywhere from 3,000 to $4,000 per month. Now he's telling the seniors that we will not be taxing your social security. So they supported him, and he said, "I'm going to bring you jobs. I'm gonna protect your family. I'm going to prevent crime, and I'm going to prevent illegals from coming in and taking your jobs." So this was everybody's thing. And then to the corporate America, he said, I'm going to reduce the corporate income tax to the lowest in the world. As long as you make your product in India, you cannot and make your product in USA. You cannot claim all these income tax exemption if you contract manufacture products in China. So, which will force companies to start manufacturing and moving their manufacturing from China back to America again. So I think it's a smart coalition. And then, and it's not just Republican alone. This is not, and the Democrats joined the team. Thereby, it is coming great. So this is a landslide by design. It wasn't an accident.
You touched upon China, how do you see the future relationship? Is USA now going to prevail over China when it comes to taxes or, increasing tariffs? How do you see that future relationship?
The tariffs already there. Trump put the first year tariffs. Nobody removed it. Even Biden didn't remove it.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he would increase the tariffs if China is, doing unfair trade practices. Like, China can have, slave workers from certain provinces, make products and they can make it very cheap and can dump it, into India or to China, like, for example, EV cars. If they start selling EV cars at, 5 lakh rupees, how do we compete with that? American companies will not be able to compete with that. So they will definitely threaten with tariff. Ultimately, the purpose of this is to protect American workers and American jobs. Again, Trump is America first president. It's not about promoting, free trade or world trade. That's not the agenda here. So all I'm saying is to the diplomats who are listening, it's time to relearn what the new Trump 2.0. Don't expect it to be same as Trump 1.0. There'll be a different team, a new leadership, a new agenda, which will be pro-America. So, they'll be ready to negotiate on what America wants first, not giving a free ride to Europe, not giving free weapons to Ukraine, but standing firm and being strong and promoting an American military which is stronger than ever.
I think, Dr. Chell, you gave a 360-degree perspective of, how the second term of Donald Trump is going to be and its impact on the global politics. And you talked about, the average American. I congratulate every American who, casted his or her vote, and it gives you an idea of, in a democracy, how important is even a one single vote. If you
Again,
deviate from your policies, uh, the voters are going to come next 4 years and they are going to dump you. So I think that's the message of this elections, that if you go far ahead, crossing the lines, you don't follow what is good for the welfare of the people and the world. That is what you get in the end. Thank you
this is
very
a
much. Yeah,
Yeah, this
thank
is a
you.
clear victory. This is a
Yeah,
clear victory of the common American man.
yes.
But the loss of people like George Soros, the loss of the liberal media, which is trying to control, and the loss of these social media moguls like like the Zuckerberg or the Googles who are trying to control the message. What we should say, what we shouldn't say, and the win of people like Elon Musk, who was promoting free speech using his new X platform and things like that. So I'm hoping for a better world and a better future.
Uh,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Dr. Chell, for joining us from straight away from Florida. And I think he gave us a very good insights into the presidential elections 2024. Thank you very much for joining on this very special broadcast. If you like this
Thank you.
program, please share it, like it. I'm expecting some comments, and you can even ask some questions if you have. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Chell.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
Bye bye.